It started with a text. Not the kind you expect. Not an "I love you," or a "miss you," or even a passive-aggressive "we need to talk." It was a photo. A boomerang, actually. Her. On a yacht. Champagne in hand. Wind in her hair. And next to her? That same guy she used to cry about. The one she swore had manipulated her in college. The one she said was toxic but exciting. The one she told me I never had to worry about because she saw him like a bad decision in a past life. Caption: Girls trip with the best. And just like that, the steady, quiet burn that had been growing inside me for months finally caught fire. Before I ever saw that story, my life was fine. Predictable, maybe, but stable. I just finished renovating our home office, finally mounted the shelves she kept asking about. Grocery list on the fridge. Sunday meal preps, morning kisses that landed half on the lips, half on autopilot. We were a couple you don't really notice in public. Polite. Efficient. Functional. That was the problem, apparently. "You never surprise me," she said once, during a late-night scroll session where I was half asleep and she was mid-TikTok envy. I laughed. "You like stability." Stability is just a fancy word for boring. That stayed with me longer than it should have. The next few months felt like walking on glass and socks. She started pulling away, in ways that didn't look dramatic on the surface but cut deeper than any fight ever could. Canceling dinner plans with no heads up. Going out more often but never inviting me. Coming home late, the scent of unfamiliar cologne lingering near her hair. And then came the weird communication games. She'd drop things like, "You don't really get me," or "Maybe we're just in different places," but only when I was too tired to argue. Then she'd cuddle up to me like nothing happened. She stopped saying, "I love you," first. Then she stopped saying it at all. I started noticing her phone was never face up anymore. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter, casually, like a person with nothing to hide. Now it was always clutched in her hand, screen down, even in the shower. I asked once, gently, "Is there something going on I should know about?" She laughed. "Why do you always assume the worst?" That was the last time I asked. Not because I believed her, but because I didn't want to hear the answer I already knew. When she told me she was going on a girls' trip, I nodded. Asked when her flight was. Helped her pack even. She said she needed time to think. "About us?" I asked. She hesitated. "About everything." That night, while she zipped her bag, I looked at her like I was seeing a stranger in my own apartment. She noticed. "You okay?" "Yeah. Just trying to figure out how we got here." She kissed my cheek. "Don't overthink. I'll be back before you know it." But I already knew she wouldn't be coming back to the same place. Because while she was on that yacht with her ex, smiling at the camera like nothing was broken, I was calling in movers. I didn't burn anything. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell anyone, not at first. I just packed my life. Box by box. Drawer by drawer. Memory by memory. I left the framed photo of us on the hallway shelf. The one from that New Year's party when we were both drunk and laughing like idiots. I didn't want it. But I didn't have the heart to throw it away either. I left my key on the kitchen island, next to a note that simply said, "You wanted a surprise. Here it is." She called me 3 days later. Missed calls. Then a voicemail. "Hey, I got back and... What the hell is going on? Why is the apartment half empty? Where are you?" I didn't answer. I didn't owe her a conversation she wasn't brave enough to have with me. She tried again later. "Can we at least talk? I feel like you blindsided me. This isn't fair. You didn't even..." I stopped listening. Because suddenly I realized how many times I'd sat across from her, trying to talk, and she scrolled. Or how many nights I'd waited for her to come home, wondering if she was safe, or just choosing not to be near me. How many mornings I said, "I love you," into the void. Fair? No. None of it was. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. It's been a few months now. I'm in a smaller place. Just a one-bedroom, nothing fancy. The kind of space where nothing echoes because there's no hollow silence hanging in the air. Some mornings, I still wake up expecting the weight of her beside me. But then I remember. The weight is gone. And I'm finally light enough to live again. Last I heard, she posted some cryptic quote about people who ghost you when it gets hard. Mutual friends say she's been telling people I was emotionally unavailable. That I never fought for her. Let her say what she wants. I didn't move out to punish her. I moved out to find the part of me she forgot to love. And I'm not going back to pick it up for her. Healing wasn't linear. It was a jagged, uneven slope filled with bitter mornings and uncertain nights. For a while, I thought moving out would be the hard part. It wasn't. Living with the aftermath was. The first week alone, I kept turning around expecting her to be there. Some days I even caught myself texting her things I forgot I couldn't send anymore. They finally fixed the elevator. Or, the neighbor's cat had kittens. Then I'd sit there, message typed out, staring at her name in the contacts list like it was still allowed to mean something. But I never hit send. That was my first small win. Work became my anchor. Not because I loved it, but because it didn't leave space for thought. Morning commutes. Back-to-back meetings. Quiet lunches alone. Deadlines became a kind of therapy. Coworkers noticed I was quieter. I told them I was just focused. I started running again. Nothing fancy, just laps around the park. It hurt at first. My legs weren't used to moving for myself. But the pain reminded me I still had a body that wanted to keep going. Then came the weekends. The worst part. I'd wake up to silence. No coffee brewing. No hum of a hair straightener. No voice in the bathroom singing off-key. Just my thoughts. And man, they were loud. One Saturday I cracked. I drove by the old place. I don't know what I expected. Maybe to see her. Maybe to see him. Maybe to see her alone and miserable, just to prove something. But all I saw was someone else's car in the lot and unfamiliar curtains in the window. It wasn't my place anymore. She wasn't my person anymore. That night, I deleted every photo. Every video. Every voicemail. It took 2 hours and 3 beers. I cried once. Then I stopped crying. Then I just sat in the dark, not feeling much at all. Second win? About a month later, I ran into her by accident. At a grocery store, of all places. She was in the wine aisle, holding the same brand we used to split on Friday nights. She didn't notice me at first. She looked different. Tired. Or maybe just caught off guard. When our eyes met, it was like time paused. And then it didn't. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She looked like she was waiting for me to say something more. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not without reopening something I worked hard to bury. She nodded slowly. "You look good." "Thanks." Long silence. "I didn't expect to see you," she added. "Neither did I." Another pause. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." I looked at her for a long time. "Neither did you." And then I walked away. I didn't look back. Third win. There was no dramatic closure. No sit-down talk. No apology text. Just distance. And with time, that distance turned into peace. Not joy. Not yet. But quiet. And quiet was better than the chaos of wondering if I was enough. She taught me that love isn't about fixing someone. Or proving yourself worthy of their half-hearted attention. It's about showing up. Fully. Completely. Willingly. And if they can't do that? You walk. Not to hurt them. But to heal you. I still keep that note I left her on my kitchen corkboard. "You wanted a surprise. Here it is." Sometimes I look at it and smile. Because I used to think surprising her would mean flowers, or vacations, or last-minute dates. Turns out, the biggest surprise I ever gave her was leaving. And it was the first thing she never saw coming. A few weeks after the grocery store run-in, something shifted inside me. Not all at once, more like the slow melting of frost in early spring. I stopped checking her social media. Stopped reliving our last argument in my head. I even stopped wondering if she missed me. And when I stopped wondering, I started remembering. Not just the pain, but the parts of me that used to exist before her. I remembered how I used to play guitar, badly, but passionately. How I once tried to cook through an entire Italian cookbook, burning half the dishes but laughing through it anyway. I remembered road trips with no destination, sleeping in my car at beachside parking lots, and journaling nonsense by moonlight. So I bought a cheap acoustic guitar from a pawn shop. Tuned it until it didn't sound like dying animals. I played for hours that night, fingers raw and rhythm off, but something about the chords felt like coming home. One night I got a text from a mutual friend. "Just a heads up, she's telling people you emotionally abandoned her." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Let her. I'm not here to rewrite her version. I'm just done being in it." Then I blocked the number. Not out of anger, just necessity. Fourth win. There was a cafe down the street from my new place, small, cozy, dim lighting, old jazz records playing softly in the background. The barista, Lena, knew my name by the third visit. She started remembering my order by the fifth. She wasn't a rebound. Let's make that clear. But she was kind. And she laughed at my dry jokes. And one day she asked why I always sat alone with headphones on, eyes staring out the window like I was waiting for a ghost. I didn't answer directly. Just smiled and said, "Trying to remember who I used to be." She tilted her head. "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. Maybe I'd like to meet him." That stuck with me. I didn't ask her out. Not yet. But I started staying a little longer. Letting her recommend a new pastry. Talking about books. Letting life become a little less about what was behind me. Healing wasn't loud. It was quiet. Almost boring. But in the best way. One night, I went back to the apartment I now called home and noticed something small. I hadn't thought about her all day. Fifth win. The final chapter didn't come with a dramatic twist. No desperate midnight texts. No teary reunion. No airport chase. It came with peace. I got a new job offer across the state. More responsibility. Better pay. I thought about it for 3 days, then said yes. I packed everything into a rented van, this time not because I was running, but because I was ready to arrive somewhere new. I didn't leave a note this time. Didn't owe anyone an explanation. Just cleaned my place, turned in the keys, and drove into a sunrise that didn't feel metaphorical. It felt like fuel. I still think about her sometimes. But it's not angry or sad anymore. It's just a chapter. A part of a book that was never meant to be the whole story. And me? I'm still writing. But I like where the story's going now. Because it's finally mine. The new city was louder. Busier. More alive. There was something comforting about that, oddly enough. People here moved fast. No one looked at you too long, and that kind of anonymity gave me room to breathe again. I moved into a loft above an old bookstore. The landlord, a retired history teacher named Mark, gave me a discount for helping unload deliveries on weekends. The place had character, exposed brick walls, creaky floors, and a window that looked out onto a street that never truly slept. I got into the habit of walking at night, earbuds in, hands in my jacket, letting the city hum around me like a lullaby. I didn't always know where I was going. That was the point. Some nights I passed bars where couples laughed too loudly, or coffee shops still lit up like they refused to close. And every now and then, I'd see someone who looked a little like her. And every time, I didn't stop. The job kept me sharp. I threw myself into it, projects, meetings, deadlines. I started gaining respect, promotions, even friends. Real friends. Not just coworkers you tolerate through shared trauma. Friends who didn't know the old me. Who weren't tied to what I'd survived. They just saw me for who I was now. That's when I realized something important. I didn't need to become who I was before her. I was becoming someone new. Someone better. Lena and I texted now and then. Mostly about books. She'd send me photos of pastries she was testing. I'd reply with unsolicited ratings and poorly written haikus. It was light, casual. But steady. Then one day she wrote, "You ever coming back for that espresso I owe you?" I stared at it for a moment, smiled, and replied, "Only if you promise it comes with that blueberry scone." Deal. We met halfway. She took the train. I drove 3 hours. No expectations. No pressure. Just two people walking through a park with coffee and laughter between them. It wasn't a grand romance. Not yet. But it didn't feel like running anymore. It felt like choosing. 6 months after the move, I visited my old city again. Not for her. For closure. I drove past the apartment building where we used to live. It looked the same. But I felt different. Lighter. Like I could look at the past without being chained to it. I didn't go inside. Didn't need to. Instead, I walked to the riverfront. Sat on a bench with a sandwich and watched the water move like time. I thought about everything that had happened. The pain. The growth. The leaving. And I whispered something to no one in particular. Thank you? Because she broke me. But I rebuilt better. She left me behind. But I found myself. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man who had lost something. I felt like a man who had survived.